And we're back, guys, as we continue our MSC showcase here on day 5 of CMA Industry Week. Up next in this session, we're going to continue along the lines of Audio Tech Fisher product. In particular, we're going to talk about Helix and Match and multi-channel system design. Guys, multi-channel system design, I mean, it's obvious. Everybody wants as many channels as possible, right?
Lots of channels.
It's all about the channels. More channels.
Better. As long as we got a 5-channel. You guys got a 5-channel? That's what we hear all the time.
Why is everybody stuck on the 5-channel? Like, it doesn't have to be 5-channel to play 5. Anyways, that's another conversation. I'm not going to waste time on your segment to do this. We'll pick that up on a future Connected. All right. System design is something that I hear come out, from your camp all the time. You're very passionate about ensuring that you have the right options and the right opportunities in different scenarios that can enable shops, dealers to provide to their customers. So I'm curious as to where we want to head with this particular session.
Well, I think we kind of alluded to that with my sarcastic little 5-channel comment, but we want, as we had our eyes opened up 3 years ago when we visited Audio Tech Fisher, because our question to them was exactly the same. We need a 5-channel. We need a 5-channel. So we started working with them and understanding really there is a different way to skin this cat. And especially in today's newer cars where the newer cars are multi-channel, where we couldn't get away with the 5-channel. So the typical 5-channel system is a pair of components or coaxial speakers up front, pair of components or coaxes in the back, and then subwoofer. And away we rolled. And that was great. And if we're doing an aftermarket deck and sliding it in there in a 5-channel on a sub, so the guy's got some energy, some jam, that's all cool. But the reality to this is that 5-channel is quickly becoming technology history because today's new car is tomorrow's used car. So we need to start thinking about ways we can develop systems using multi-channel solutions. And that's really where Audio Tech Fisher, in terms of their amplification, and more specifically, their DSP amplification. And what I'm talking about is multi-channel amplifier with multi-channel DSP built in to one single chassis. So you heard us reference in the setup there our 12-channel. So I want to show you this little guy because this is it is the most important tool we believe that we have in our line. In this single chassis that's a little bit bigger than my hand, and I have a small hand, but don't let that fool you, we have 12 channels of 75 watts by 12, and that is power rating with all channels driven at the same time wide open. But we can do things a little differently with this, and we can look at the power of this in a slightly different manner. This amplifier has a power supply that's designed for 1,000 watts, period. Now, if we're driving a fully active 12-channel system, tweeter, mid-range, woofer up front, center channel, two-way, rear two-way, the little tweeters aren't going to require 75 watts per channel to blend into the system, even at maximum type volume level. So what this amplifier is smart enough to do, and I'm going to use not super technical wording here, but the amplifier will share power from those channels that aren't using it to the channels that will. So we can get a pair of outputs out of this amplifier that'll develop 160 watts into a 2 ohm load. So, and then if you're using 2 ohm on the front speakers and 2 ohm on the rear speakers, which we have with some of our other products, and you use a dual 2 ohm subwoofer, for instance, we can take 2 channels of this, as we're going to show you coming up, and go into get 320 watts into a single subwoofer. One chassis. And then it also has, dual preamp outputs that are processed outputs that we can run into another amplifier to drive subwoofers. And we'll also show you that on our system design chart. But that is an important amplifier in our mix. And last I checked, fit into a Honda CR-V, just saying.
Well, I'm just saying that is pretty small footprint for everything that it does.
Yes. I'll let Chris take over. I'll be Vanna here for Chris, and I'll let him talk to you about the up 7. So again, my hand, I can palm it just like a basketball player.
So the Up7 is one of our most popular products. It fits a couple of different applications, but the most important is the Up7 DSP, universal platform, 7-channel amplifier. So this little guy's got 5 channels of output at 65 watts apiece. So you've got a front and rear option plus a center output. And then it's also got a pair of 160 watt RMS channels on the back end. So you can do a few different things. One, a lot of guys will go through and use this as an active front and rear type system. 265 watt channels to the tweeters, 265 watt channels to the rears, and then 160 by 2 to your mid-bass drivers. The one thing that we've had a lot of fun exploring is using those 260 watt channels to drive a dual 2-ohm subwoofer. So now we're left with, in a 5-channel type configuration, 65 watts per channel to your fronts, 65 watts to the rears, and then 320 watts RMS to drive that subwoofer in the trunk or under the back seat of that pickup truck. All in this tiny little chassis, while still giving you 8 channels of DSP. So all of your equalization, your time alignment, our real center up mixer is built into this system. All of our all-pass filter systems are built into these guys. Bass augmentation, all of the things that we've talked about today in terms of our technologies are still maintained in this tiny little amplifier with the integration aspects to run anything you want under the sun. As long as you can think outside the box and start to really explore the possibilities.
That little thing, we talked about it already in another conversation, but the possibilities with that little guy, I feel, is definitely something that dealers need to pay close attention to. Its sheer footprint sneaks its way into so many different nooks and crannies, first of all. And what you just alluded to, Chris, with the different configurations and getting that kind of power out of that. I mean, would you say 320 into
320 on the back end.
Into 2-ohm, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
into a dual 2-ohm load.
In a dual, that's more than enough to drive a 10, in a sealed in the trunk of any situation. So very, very cool piece.
The other cool thing about this side, I had mentioned it's an 8-channel DSP, is you still have your preamp output available on this. So what we see a lot of guys do is start with this as step 1. Take your factory radio into this, driving factory speakers or a modest upgraded set of speakers in there in a front-rear sub configuration. And then as the client grows with his expectations and his needs for the audio system, we can take a mono amplifier, add this to drive a subwoofer system, something bigger and meaner, and then you can take the amplifier he's already got and repurpose it to do that active front end system in addition to the rear. So you're not only giving the client great end results today, you're giving him an upgrade path that's not going to lead to him leaving amplifiers collecting dust in the garage or selling them for a case of beer to his buddy. You've got something that's long term.
It's got some future proofing to it, and if I'm not mistaken, there's harnesses as well that you could really help with the integration of those pieces, right?
Correct. With the match lineup, we've got a range of different plug-and-play harnesses for different vehicle applications that you can get into and explore with a bunch of different categories.
Yeah, and we're not going to show you individual pictures of individual harnesses.
No,
no, go to our system upgrade finder on our website at audiotechfisher.com.
Audiotech-Fisher.com.
There we go. Thank you, Chris.
In the menu section, there's a spot for Upgrade Finder where you can actually punch in your vehicle and pull up every available upgrade that we make. So whether there's harnessing, if there's plug-and-play amplifiers or direct replacement speakers available, you can actually see that all in one easy spot.
And again, just to connect all the dots of what we're learning today, both units, DSP built in, same platform features, and that you could use that same tuning kit to tune both.
Exactly. All of our features like the ADEP, that dynamic loading circuit, for integration side of things, everything is built into even this little guy.
Perfect.
One of the most successful applications of this at the Proof of Concept store here is we do a ton of Porsche. We're members of the Porsche Club. We're in with the Porsche dealer. We love Porsche. We love that group cars. And if there's any dealers that want to talk about dealer relationships and everything, we'd be happy to have that discussion with them. But we do a ton of old Porsche. When I say old, 997s, old original 991s, anything that didn't have CarPlay or Bluetooth attached to it. Everybody who's wanted a Porsche is buying that first one and scrumping together all their cash to buy that 997 turbo that they've always dreamt about. And what's the first thing they want in that car is technology. They want CarPlay. They want Bluetooth hands-free. They want the technology that the old PCM2 didn't give them. So they're coming in to get that technology, which we give them. We're a proud Kenwood dealer here at the store. But what they don't know is that the Bose system actually isn't good. They think it's good because it says Bose on it and it's been brand labeled that it's good. But what we have a choice then of using a interface that will interface that head unit into the factory Bose amplifier, or this little guy fits exactly where the factory amplifier in a 997 does, up in the front boot. And now we have the 7 channels to drive it. So we got 2 channels for the factory mid-tweet. We have 2 channels for the 8-inch 2-ohm woofers in the door. And we have 2 channels for the rear speakers, and then 1 channel for the center channel. And then the preamp output feeds the factory subwoofer amplifier to that little plastic box behind the seats with the dual 5s in there. And with proper time alignment and equalization, we're delivering Porsche 997s with the factory Bose speakers in it that lets the client leave with a smile and a few goosebumps. Now, the important thing to remember with that is, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, and trust me, we've seen lots of these cars come into the shop with an aftermarket head unit of yesteryear put in them, where the whole system's rewired, where they've tried to make things work. You don't have to try anymore. This amplifier allows us to get in there, as well as with older Mercedes, with older BMW. We have the solution all in one chassis that makes it incredibly easy to do for you.
Very, very cool.
We've also put together, just recently, these will be going out to the dealers very, very soon. If we can get a little closer action on this catalog here. This is something that we've designed as a reference little book for our dealers to use internally in the store. I know you won't be able to see from here, but we're very proud of the fit and finish of this book. It really explores Audio-Tech Fisher and their technology. We talk about all the different technologies in this little book. And more importantly, we give you at the end of the book information on system designs, more traditional system designs using our multi-channel amplifier, page after page of that. And if we launch the PowerPoint presentation, we've brought some of these on screen here for you, some of the system designs from this catalog. And I'll let Chris explain our P6 DSP used as a 5-channel amplifier.
So what we wanted to do is kind of give you guys a outside the box look at some of the ways that we use these different amplifiers. So this first application that comes up here is the P6. It is one of our #1 go-to in that 5-channel type applications. This is going to give us 4 channels of 125 watts a piece, up to front speakers, whether it's a coax, a 2-way component with a passive, or 3-way, or whatever the case may be. 2 full range channels there, a set of rears, but then we've got those 2 channels left over. So when we partner those up with that dual 2-ohm subwoofer configuration, we're actually able to extract north of 500 watts RMS into that setup while still retaining all of our DSP technologies that we've been talking about across the board. So it's a different way. Most people, when they think they need front rear sub, are not thinking about anything other than a 5-channel. But when you are correctly designing a system from the ground up, not just picking products off the shelf, you can really start to find unique ways to explore some of these different technologies and exploit them to make sure that your client's getting a killer end result. As we go up, we look at the up 7 option that we have that we discussed earlier, where we're using that front, that rear, and then that dual 2-ohm sub, just shy of 350 watts on the sub side of things. So for the vast majority of clients, that to a single 10 or a single 12 is going to give him tons of jam in the bottom end while giving him great sound quality across the board in an amplifier that's small enough to fit in the dash in a lot of cars. As we move from there, we go to our next amplifier, which is the V8. 8 channels, same kind of concepts, but now we get to start to open up some additional options. That 8 channel is now able to do things like running a front set of active speakers, tweeter, mid-bass, plus rears, and then same concept, that dual 2-ohm sub in the back, driving just shy of 350 watts RMS. Now you've got a great system amplifier in there with the benefits of active channel processing in something that's still small enough to easily hide underneath the seat in most cars. We go up from there, we take the exact same concepts of the V8 and we add 4 more channels to it. With the V12, the first amplifier that Larry was showing, we get into something that can be really widely configured. With so many of these new cars having center channels built into them, this allows us to take that and add a active front component system, a set of rears, plus our virtual center generated center channel, retaining that factory location. And at that point, we've still got 4 channels left to run that back end. So now we can take a pair of dual 2-ohm subwoofers. So imagine 2 dual 2-ohm 10s running off almost 650 watts RMS, plus an active front end, plus a center, plus the rear fill, all in an amplifier that can tuck underneath the seat. Absolutely crazy tech on that side of things. But you can even take this amplifier one step further. If we use the preamp outputs, we can drive all 12 channels to active speakers in the car. We can start looking at things like an active front 3-way, plus an active 2-way rear, plus an active 2-way center, and still have outputs to run that big mean mono amplifier to drive a subwoofer system in the trunk. In this configuration that you see up on the screen now, this V12 in addition to our P1, we're talking just north of 2,500 watts of total system power in a tiny footprint that's, one underneath each seat, something tucked behind a side panel in a trunk. It's just relentless power and capabilities with these systems.
And I'll add, Ben, that if one P1 isn't quite enough for you, the P1s are strappable to deliver over 3,200 watts into your subwoofer system. So we can get up and dance as well. CRV time?
You're making my head spin a little bit. You're making my head spin because, here I am. I've been planning my next system and been thinking about, multi-channel and DSP, and you've kind of changed things around for me to think that I don't need giant footprints. Okay, here's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is I'm allowed to do what I want with a car. I just can't take up too much space. And I can't be alone on that. I think dealers deal with that all the time, right? So can you pull up that 12? Do you have the 12 in front of you, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's the 12.
Imagine this for a second. This can tuck away anywhere. And you hit the nail on the head, Ben. I can do what I want with the car, but we still got to have room for the groceries, for the kids' hockey bag, for the soccer ball. The reality is this is our client. I mean, we're not trying to take the custom fabricated, beautiful artwork trunks and everything out there that a lot of our dealers are building. We don't want to take that away. What we are saying is we can build a reference quality audio system without seeing or disturbing any of the factory elements of the car that the clients purchased that car for those particular reasons, especially in SUVs and everything else. And when we get into the sports cars or the higher end exotics, they don't want to see amplifiers. They don't want to see all that stuff. And with this 12 channel, if you're using a digital preamp from any of our various partners, whether that be a NAV TV or PAC or whatever, this has a digital input as well. So one cable from the head unit, factory head unit, into this via Toslink, and then all your speaker connections are here, one power and ground, and that's it. 12 channels, 14 channel DSP, all in one box with speaker connections. We're going to show you a system later on with the system installed. This amplifier
my mind is, like I said,
how accessible that is.
My mind is spinning. I was going to go to Chris on this. Chris, are you going to show us twin V12 install, one for each side of the car?
We could get crazy. I mean, there's so many of these new cars, Ben, that are dealing with insane things, 20 plus, 25, 30 channels of amplification. So things like the V12, being able to minimize that. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were installing systems into those cars using multiple DSPs and trying to tune 2 different amplified DSPs running 2 different sections of the car. It was a nightmare in terms of logistics and efficiencies through the shop. So having something like this that lets us scale up that channel count and keep it all in one simple box means that the technicians are more efficient, means the guys tuning the cars are more efficient, and it means your clients are getting better end results at the end of the day.
I think that's going to be a great application for tuckaway systems and minivans and SUVs, family applications that really have one real premium vehicle and shared by the family, but also for those sport cars and exotic vehicles where space is premium and you can do what you need to do with that unit there. Well done, gentlemen.
Yeah, and on that topic, I mean, these sports cars, we're seeing so many issues in these things where these new cars are limited in space. You can't do subwoofers, you can't do big amplifiers. The other problem we run into in these cars is because of the cabin size and shape, we can't properly develop deep, big energy bass. It just doesn't work. So what we're forced to respond with is big drivers in the doors and running an active two-way system with big power. And that's one of the biggest things that we use the UP7 DSP for, is that even though we have 7 channels of amplified power in here, if I choose to use a pair of channels for a good quality tweeter and the high power channels for an 8-inch mid bass in the door, this is still one of the best valued, big power amplified DSP4 channels on the market. Just because it has the plugs on the side of the amplifier doesn't mean you have to use it if it's still the best answer for the project. If it's the best tool, this is the way to go. And with all of these new supercars that we're seeing, clients that don't want to give up the little bit of space they do have for storage, but still want that premium audio experience, this UP7 has been an absolute monster in terms of performance in these cars.
Great. Guys, we've kind of run out of time, but I think we've covered the entire gambit. Is there any last message, Larry or Chris, that you'd like to convey before we sign off?
Well, I think the final message to this, and hopefully we've opened up the minds just a little bit of the kinds of different things you can do with our amplifiers. The V12 and the V8 are 2 of our fastest growing, best-selling amplifiers, because the people that have used them in this, Raul from Audio Master, just a little shout out to you there. He's the V8 king, we call him. I think that's the only, I think you might eat him for breakfast actually. But once you understand what we're doing with this, and don't be closed-minded to the fact that there's no way that one little chassis is going to drive every speaker in this car, including the subwoofer. I say, hey, listen, we're not going to blow the toque off your head. And for our American viewers, that's the wool thing you put over your head, covers your ears, and keeps you warm in the wintertime.
Ski cap.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to blow that off your head, but it's going to give high fidelity, high energy, impactful sound in the car, which most of these style of clients are looking for. And trust me, we've got other products for those other kinds of clients as well that want monster bass. We can do that as well. But this is the reality of our new market, our emerging market, and the market we would like to work with our dealers to have them understand that's there. And we want to work with you as our partners to understand how to grasp that market.
Awesome. Very well said, guys. We're off to the next one, signing out for this one. Very nice presentation, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, that wraps up this session of Helix Match multi-channel system designs, making you think a little bit in different ways. And that little match amplifier, certainly very versatile, I think is the word I'm going to use. Continuing live coverage here from our MSC showcase of Day 5 of CMA Industry Week. I am your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.